Almost at the end of today's edition of the Holidays News and Views program. Last month, Islamic Relief's HOD of Fund Development, Abdul Aleem Gamza, committed to running 750 kilometers to raise 750,000 rand in support of our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Alhamdulillah, he is on track to complete this mission on the 31st of December, and there is still time to support this worthy cause. You can sponsor 1 kilometer for 1,000 rands. You can also join Brother Abdul Aleem on the last leg of his run. Come and meet him and other Islamic Relief representatives at the Lighthouse in Moyle Point on the 31st of December. Welcome to the program, Brother Aleem.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear Sahib, as well as the listeners of Salaamedia.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You know, when I read that introduction, I just thought everything happens in Cape Town. We're here in Joburg, but we are in support of course, this amazing initiative. What is the current situation on the ground in Gaza, considering the escalating humanitarian crisis, devastating death toll, challenges in accessing essential supplies, critical shortages in hospitals, and the threat of operational breakdown for ambulances and communication services?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All praise and thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, it's a privilege and honor to be on the platform, Salaamedia, once again, keeping the voices of our Palestinian brothers alive and sisters alive and the children alive in this devastating bombardment of Gaza. We've seen it's been over 2 months that this has taken place. And, over 80% of the population are indeed in need of humanitarian aid, which
Mhm.
means to say that, we're looking at about 1.8 million people also having forcefully and internally displaced. So you can imagine an area of housing for 2.4 million people, known as one of the most densely populated pieces of land in the world, have now
Mhm.
been moved and shifted into an area even smaller than that, where people are, really condensed and canned up in a small space.
Mm.
And we've seen the death toll rise. And if the death toll, if the numbers are something that's going to trigger us, then by all means. But one life that has been lost is one life too many. And we've seen
Right.
over 20,000 lives being lost, of which 74% have been women and children. And we've
Right.
seen close on to 54,000 people being injured over this period of time. And Gaza before all this has happened was known as the biggest open air prison in the world, of
Mhm.
which over 45% of the people were in need of humanitarian aid. We can only imagine how that number has changed based on the escalation and the bombardment of Gaza right now. So a beautiful area, beautiful piece of land that has been destroyed and is being destroyed right now, but also so many lives have been lost. And as we look at it, we've seen blackouts, we've seen that there's been a lack of fuel going into Gaza. We've seen a lack of food, lack of clean, drinkable water. And these are real issues that the Palestinians and the people of Gaza are facing on a day-to-day basis. And all I'm saying to our brothers and sisters, as we go into this, as we are in this season of forgetfulness, of mindfulness, and we only think about ourselves, let us just bear in mind that this period will pass, and Gaza is not something that is fashionable. It's
Mm.
fashionable in November, but it's not fashionable in December. It is not
Yes.
something fashionable. It is something that is needed, and we need to continue talking about it. We need to keep this conversations alive, whether it be over a braai that we're having, whether it be us sitting with family and friends, whether we decide we're going for a picnic. These conversations need to be kept alive, and we must remember that we have to help, and we have to assist, and we have to assist our brothers and sisters who are the protectors of the third holiest for the Muslims, none other than Baitul Maqdis. And we've seen how our brothers and sisters have been facing challenges where the young people are unable to go to Masjid al-Aqsa, and they're only allowing the elderly, over, I think,
Mm.
over 55, you're allowed to come into the masjid, but they're keeping the young people away. So we have to bear this in mind. There are so many talking points when we're speaking about Gaza, and time does not permit us to talk about every single thing that is happening.
Right.
But our teams, Alhamdulillah, Islamic Relief, our teams have responded. We have been working on the ground since 1997. We've been working in Gaza since for the last 26 years. Our team are Palestinians based in Gaza. They understand the demographics, they understand the culture, and on a day-to-day basis, even under trying circumstances that they find themselves, they are able to provide some sort of assistance to those
Mhm.
in need, whether it be from feeding families, whether it be from providing medical assistance, or to psychosocial trauma counseling that
Right.
these young people is really much important, and we mustn't lose sight of the need of psychosocial trauma counseling and support that's required.
Indeed. So, it's very heartening to hear that you are able to reach those people, however you have through your people in Gaza, of course. However, hasn't this been the most difficult of all the missions that you've had to actually get all of what you've mentioned to the people that need it?
This has been the worst escalation and bombardment that we've seen. And I don't think anybody has witnessed or seen this playing itself out live on television. We've seen what's happening. We can see what's happening. But you can also see how mainstream media is moving away from the narrative of trying to discuss these items. And that's why we are so grateful to platforms like Salam for affording us these opportunities. And yes, it is difficult. But if we reach one person for the day, it is one more person whose life maybe we have saved. And that is the mindset of the staff of Islamic Relief as we are working on the ground. And there are times we are able to provide more on one day than the other days because
Right.
of the conditions that we find ourselves in. But I
Exactly.
think, when we're speaking about the heroes, when we're speaking about those who are really, caring about humanity, these humanitarian workers are working on the ground and they are putting themselves ahead or the lives of others ahead of themselves and of their families to save the lives of others. So I think, those are the true heroes, and this talks about the resilience of our brothers and sisters in Gaza.
Right. I'm curious, how are your resources reaching them, though?
Well, we'll be working via, these agencies that we work via, so there's supplies coming in via the Rafah crossing, and there are obviously limited supplies coming into the area that we are working, but we are working with other NGOs in the area to make sure if they have supplies that we are able to supply and provide to for the people on the ground. So I think everybody's working hand in hand. It's not working. Nobody's working in isolation because there's no time to work in isolation. You have to work and unified as you
Yes.
possibly can to make sure that we are getting to as many people as possible.
Right. Brother Abdul Aleem, as you've mentioned previously, that you are actively involved in a 750-kilometer run for Gaza, which started in the beginning of November with the objective of raising funds towards aiding the people of Gaza. Can you update us on how far you are and how people can get involved and support this worthy cause?
Alhamdulillah, we are into the final few days of the run, and we reached 720 20 kilometers already. Inshallah ta'ala, on Sunday, the 31st, I'll be running the final stretch of the 700 kilometers. And yeah, I think people, if you are in Cape Town and there are maybe listeners and people from Johannesburg or Durban or wherever, if you are in Cape Town and you are in the Sea Point, Mully Point area at 6 p.m. on Sunday, come and join me on the run, even if you're going to run 1 kilometer or half a kilometer, or you want to run the full distance with me, which will be about 10 kilometers, then Bismillah, join. And that will be the final run on the 31st of December of 750 kilometers, inshallah.
All right. And what's the build up to the final run?
Oh, um, I think the build-up really is just, to get people there, to get people to support, people to donate towards per kilometer. And you mentioned that early on in the discussion, at
Mm,
1,000 per kilometer. And the more money we raise, nothing's coming to Abdul Aleem or to Islamic Relief going to our coffers. We're making sure the money is getting to our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine. And 750 is synonymous with 75 years of occupation that our brothers and sisters have faced since 1948. So I've just multiplied that by 10, and that gave us 750. And as I said, it started on the 1st of November, and on the 31st of December, it will end. But it does not mean that the discussion and the work for Gaza ends on the 31st of December. It just means that this particular part of the project is now complete, and we will continue. We will still continue to keep the conversation alive. We will still continue to raise funds for the much
Hmm.
needed projects inside of Gaza, inshallah.
Indeed, and I think this run is with such meaning and purpose that I'm sure you're just motivated to complete it and have the necessary support that, of course, you will get because everyone else feels we're sitting here and just talking, and talking is important. Like you've said, just don't stop talking about it, but to get involved in something as proactive as this, and for all of us who can't actually join you in the run, which we'd love to be doing, we can, of course, contribute um, with 1,000 rand per kilometer, right? Isn't that's your appeal?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when I look at this and sacrifice, yes, there is sacrifices that need to be made, and we sacrifice maybe a little bit of our money, we sacrifice a little bit of our time, and maybe
Mhm.
some sweat and whatever it is. But our
Mm,
brothers and sisters in Gaza, they're sacrificing with their lives, the ultimate sacrifice. And so what we are
mhm,
doing here is really insignificant into what they are doing. But the real
mm.
case doesn't lie with them. The real case lies with us. How are we going to respond? Are we going to say, okay, maybe I don't want to give 1,000 to the running for the run for Gaza because Abdul Aleem is running it. It's not about
Mm.
personalities. It's not about individuals. It's not about anything.
Right.
It's about assisting those who are most vulnerable. And this will count on our scale of good deeds in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Inshallah. I mean,
Simple.
wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll be following you on your track.
I mean,
Inshallah, you will be successful in what you've set out to achieve, and we wish Islamic Relief all the best in their efforts. Inshallah. We were
inshallah.
speaking to the head of fund development, Abdul Aleem Hamza. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Jazakallah khair. All right, and that's it. We've come to the end of today's edition of News and Views with Najma Kota. Remember, this is the holidays edition. I look forward to being back with you tomorrow at the same time between 8 and 10 a.m. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.